You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public Radio, 107.7 and 105.3 from New Orleans.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fika. Our guest today is Michelle Desrochers. Michelle is a paranormal researcher, investigator, and manager here on United Public Radio and UFO Paranormal Radio Networks. We've been looking into fictional ghost stories on Fika, and I thought it was time we looked at some real ones. Real ghost stories, you say? Are ghosts real? And I think that's a decision we have to make for ourselves. But lucky for us, Michelle is only a couple of programs away on the ever popular Outer Realm, which she co hosts with Amelia Pisano. And she's dropped by to help us find those answers. In fact, as a curious person and passionate researcher, she's still finding some answers about those things of high strangeness herself. Which doesn't mean she doesn't know a lot. It just means she knows there's more out there and she's still reaching. Michelle is a friend. Not the kind of friend you stop and have coffee with once a day, once a week, or even once a year, but the kind that drops in and changes your life. She changed my life when she took a chance and offered me a place for Fika on this station. And when it comes to things of high strangeness, that's up there. So let's sit back and enjoy the tales of Michelle's personal experiences and travels, and maybe make some comments or ask questions about our own. And you writers out there, you better grab those notebooks because I guarantee you're going to be grabbing up some ideas as well. So thanks, Michelle, for sharing your stories with us today, for reaching out so we can have more to think about, and for believing in things or people that others may not. Welcome to Fika.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. And you mentioned authors. I've had authors consult with me. I do a lot of consultation work on, when they write books. Could this be a thing? Could this be a thing? Would this be believable? And I think, oh my God, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, you also consulted with one of the authors I've had on the show, or worked as researcher for Mr. Wayne Mellows when he wrote Dark Origins. You had a big part of that researching as well.
Yes, because it's like my thing. I've been to Romania, and there's a lot of lineage stuff in there too with Knights Templars, and so it's a lot of fun. He goes, "This is what I need." I was there. I can do that. Yes.
And you're going to listen.
Yes.
Wayne. Weeping Willow Paranormal says hello. So, hi, Weepy. Thank you for listening, watching, whatever you may be doing. That's where I want to get started. So there's the travels and there's the experiences. But honestly, Michelle, what's a nice girl like you doing with the creepy and crawlies out there?
Well, I myself am highly strange. No. I've just been able to see, dead people from the time I was very, very young. I have recollections of being 4 and 5 years old and being Christmas dinner at my grandparents, and both sides of my family, but especially that one on my mother's side, were very, very intuitive people, and mediumship was very much talked about. It wasn't discouraged. So, I remember seeing a man there who was, like, I knew was deceased, standing in the living room, and very friendly. And I went and told my mother about him. So there's a man in the living room. She goes, "Oh, okay." And my grandfather's like, like he was the matriarch, or the patriarch rather, and says, "Let me get a book," and got a photo album and just placed it down. I wasn't discouraged. It says, "Do you see him here?" And I pointed out a man exactly, and who I described to them already. So they didn't lead me. They didn't discourage me. I chose a man, and it turned out it was my grandfather's brother, who passed away my grandfather used to go on these like excursions for 2 weeks. We're just going to go into the woods. I'm going to go to, they owned an island, and he would go there for a couple of weeks, leaving my grandmother at home with 6 kids. Different times for sure. I know, right? Here's 6 kids. Bye. So he would wander off. And when he came home from one of these excursions from hunting, back in the day, they ate what they hunted. And my grandmother tried to say, well, you know what? I have some very sad news for you. And he goes, oh, no, that's okay. My brother died. And he came and spent some time with me before moving on. It's like, wow. So, to me, it's a validation that they really don't miss very much, that they still partake. Like this was Christmas dinner and he was still there, just standing in the living room, just like looking out the window, just like he was just still a part of it all.
And the photo album is just like a stroke of genius to know to do that. And here are the usual suspects. Do you
I know.
recognize
It's the
anyone there?
suspects. I like it.
And
Yeah.
that. So you saw, and I'm curious, often people will say they sense, or you watch a show, I don't sense anything there, or I don't feel anything there. Do you feel as well? And if so, what does that feel like, Michelle?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Feeling
Is that-
like? Yes. Clairsentience. Like feeling that the hair on the back of your neck go up, or sensing something in the area. I don't know. I believe we all have it. That is when you get the butterflies in your stomach. That is when the hair goes up on the back of your neck. Maybe you're just not recognizing that there's something triggering that specifically when you enter a space. We look for traditional signs that people write about, like cold spots, or sometimes getting odors. It is believed theoretically that a nice spirit will leave behind pleasant smells, like that you would affiliate the connection with. You would associate that. So, for example, my grandfather, he had this terrible habit of getting up in the wee hours of the morning and he loved burnt toast and black coffee, which but anyway, burnt toast, I know, just like
no. I come from a burnt toast legacy.
Okay. So you like that. Well, I was woken up when somebody leaves something in the toaster, what's going on, right? And realizing, oh no, my mother's like, no, that's just my father. He used to do this pretty regularly. So we're like, oh, okay. Whereas my grandmother had floral perfumes. Sometimes they'll leave signs. I've had people near me pass away, and then I see unusual birds. My mother said, well, I'm going to come back as a cardinal to visit. I have cardinals all over my property. It's not going to help me. So,
pick
another
else.
bird, mother. Well, I like cardinals. I know, but I'm not going to tell which one is you. So, so anyway, it's just stuff like that. There are many signs you can look for. More malevolent beings will have more foul odors, maybe sulfur or sewage or excrement, things like just things of that nature. So you kind of walk into a space and you have no explanation for it. You might kind of go, nobody's here. I can't see a reason why all of a sudden there would be the smell. So there are different things you can look for.
And different feelings.
You'll know. Something comes in that makes you feel uncomfortable, you're going to feel very, very uneasy. I still do. I've been doing this for 2 decades. And when something, something comes in that shouldn't be, or if I walk into a space and I feel very uneasy, it's like, okay, well, I'm obviously infringing on something's space, or something is infiltrating mine.
So when I want to go, I guess back a little to your work. So you've been doing this for a long, long time, and forever, actually, without knowing you were doing it. And then Canada's Most Haunted comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Your business, and you start to actually do investigations and research and things like that for people. So taking this through a pragmatic thing, because I'm a person who likes to be prepared. So you feel like you have a ghost in your house and it's all gone a little crazy. How do you reach out to get help? Like, what would you advise people to do?
Well, CMH came into play around 2004 with a colleague of mine. We were doing ghost tours at the time, and we ended up parting ways and splitting the company. The tour was a tour company, and the CMH was a research company. And it was just a tag word that people would always remember, because I always used to get asked, "You're not like that, or British, most haunted, running around screaming all the time, are you?" So we thought it would be funny, and we just let's just go with that one. But it stuck and it rolled off people's tongues. I could remember it. So that's pretty much what people knew. That's where they went if they wanted to do research or film, things like that. That was just the parent company. And the best thing I could suggest is, if something is going on in the house, um, don't communicate. If you feel, it's such a long, convoluted explanation, because there are so many things that could lead someone to believe that they're having a really good experience. And all of a sudden that person says, "Okay, I'm at ease with you. Yeah, let's communicate." That's kind of like an invitation. Sometimes that could go very bad. Sometimes you're dealing with something that you may not want to be dealing with. We call them mimics. Some people may call, they're malevolent entities, interdimensional entities, dimensional, demonic, as people of faith will know them as. Or most of the world will think I run around screaming that, because my producers all say the D word. No, say it. No, say it. It could be that though, right? Oh, yeah, I suppose it could be that. but really I don't. I'm a pretty logical individual. So, but sometimes people have, like, when Wayne and I were at Blythewood, like at the house, the manor was for the most part very pleasantly haunted, but it wasn't always. It did have malevolent things that would come in and out, because Wayne wasn't the first owner. And it was a bed and breakfast for a long time. And because something looks haunted and they start getting, experiences that come in, and they start playing with spirit communication and all kinds of things. And it just brings in more stuff. Like, I had my work cut out for me when I took that place on, and just, on, like, from a paranormal standpoint, long time, for years, because Wayne and I have known each other, since 2004. And 2010 is when I went in to officially investigate the house. And he had only had it for a short time. So there's a lot of things. But if, let's just say, you don't know what's there, you don't have any experiences, you have to really do your research as to people helping you, because now there's just there's so many people who do this because they've seen TV shows, and maybe they're enthusiasts, and maybe they really do want to try to help somebody, which I commend anybody for wanting to help somebody else. But sometimes, if you don't have the experience behind you, you have to be careful, because there's a family out there reaching out. Maybe it's something benign. Maybe they just want to know who it is. Those are the best kind of investigations for people who are maybe just getting into the field. And don't be the sofa investigator, because there's a lot of that's done for theatrics as well. But go in, take pictures, get voice recordings, never challenge, be respectful. And, you have to remember, you're a guest in that house. So just behave yourself, because
it's not a movie.
It's not a movie. And I've cleaned up a lot of messes through the years for people who go in challenging things, and because they're being tricked into thinking there's something kind there, next thing you know, they made an invitation. Show yourself. I demand you to do this. I demand you to do that. Okay. Doesn't matter who makes the invitation. It's made. It's made. Some beings out there take that pretty seriously. So do your homework. Don't be afraid to ask for references. And when you request a first meeting off-site, don't do it on site. Just try to do it off-site at first. Be comfortable with these people, because it is a privilege. When somebody approaches me, I've always looked at it as a privilege. I don't walk in there all bells and whistles saying, "You're lucky I'm here." I go in there and say, "Thank you for entrusting yourself and your family to me. Let me take the weight for a while. Just sit back. Let me worry about it for a little while." And I don't disrespect ever. Like,
so if somebody does want to have a close look at Michelle's first visit at the manor house, when she first went in there, it is on Paranormal survivors of the second season, one of the end episodes,
Oh
isn't it?
no. Now
No.
that's season 2. I was brought in by a family that my colleague and I assisted, and it's a very convoluted story. The second half, I became their expert, which you're not really an expert in things you're in a field that you can't explain, but that's how I was labeled. So they just like the knowledge that I shared with them. But the story I was officially brought in on was basically a woman who we had helped. There were 2 houses involved. The one family would not participate in the show, so they made it look like they combined the 2 stories. So it made it sound like, we abandoned one family, and the truth of the matter is, one house got cleared, and we tried to work with the individuals to keep it up, because that's what I do. I still work with people on how to clear their own homes. I'm not going to be around forever. I want people to be versed as well. And this individual went on to start her own paranormal group and help other people, which was like amazing. But the other family remained in a really bad spot. We tried to clear the house that night ourselves, and we weren't given access to the whole house. As we were driving away, we realized as we came around this winding driveway, because you came in one way, when you went out the other way, there was a whole back part of a house that had been sealed off completely. We didn't even know it existed because it was under the tree line
Often, like an old
in
farmhouse. That's
in the
often what
forest.
happens.
It used to
Yeah.
be an old trading post.
Oh,
I know. It was it was very interesting, but it was a really horrific haunting. And the individual that we did assist ended up messaging about 3 years ago and says, "You remember that 5-year-old boy?" I said, "Yeah, because he's 16 now, and he still needs help." And so our team now, Amelia and I, and we have a whole other team, otherworldly team, remotely went in and removed the attachment because she's brilliant. So that's it. It was done.
so how often when you get called into these things do you find that they're benign? Like,
Well, my area of research, I've never done them. I don't do benign cases because I have always had an ability or knack, maybe the resilience, maybe because I do have nerves of steel. I startle, don't get me wrong, like anybody else, but I do have nerves of steel. And I just seem to be versed enough. It was just easier for me than a lot of people. And I found a lot of other researchers over the last, a couple of decades would just send me these type of cases. And I don't like to call them cases because they're people. But they were never benign. Not that we
you always go for
dealt with
the
some that it was just projection, like people projecting energy, because you have to remember, whether there's something there or not, there's something that's making these people believe that they're under serious attack by something. But sometimes it's easier to think that there's something else being the culprit than it is for us to think that maybe we are projecting energy, creating poltergeist activity. That's a projection of energy, or psychokinesis. Like we're projecting, which is quite common if you have preteens in the house, especially young girls or women going through menopause. Big culprits, because as women, our energy changes, our emotions change, and man, if we're mad, you all in the house know about it. Right?
no, and they do say that these things come at negative times in households. They're attracted to that. Well,
Yes.
because you're putting it out there, like,
Mhm.
it makes perfect sense.
Mhm.
So if we'll get into the baddies later, but if I know that you have said with the manor house that you lived quite well with some ghosts there, and there are people that live with ghosts, and I was just curious if you had an idea why some spirits might decide to stay here instead of moving on, like if they have that possibility, what would keep them attached to earth? Do you?
There's a lot of reasons as to why spirits remain behind, and there's 2 different kinds of spirits that remain behind. There are spirits that are stuck. Sometimes they don't realize they're dead. Sometimes they're unfinished business. They just didn't get to complete something. Maybe it was a goodbye. Maybe it was like the will's out behind the wall in the upstairs closet. Like it could be just trying to get a message across. It could be trying to solve a murder. Maybe they were murdered. Maybe it was a car accident. Maybe, especially when we're dealing with older spirits from an older time period, they were God-fearing people and they took the commandments very seriously. So if you stole from your neighbor or coveted thy neighbor's spouse, for example, you die and you're thinking,
I'm going to go to the bad place.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm just going to hang back here and take my chances and see what goes on. So sometimes it's a better option. It takes somebody to make them realize, like, no, that's not how it's going to work. Sometimes it's suicide. And when you're dealing with the suicide, again, it's the mindset of only God has the right to take your life. God gave you free will.
Yeah, no, that's
so there's no stipulations there. Like, you have free will. So they're thinking, I don't want to go to the other place. I'm going to hang back here. Or sometimes it's extreme guilt. Sometimes you have to think, what kind of a headspace was that person in for them to hit so low that they wanted to take their own life? That whole essence remains the same. Just because your body stops working doesn't mean that your essence, your feelings, your emotions, it doesn't mean that has changed. That's still intact, and people fail to realize that. And then, of course, you have your spirits who are just visiting and just like their place or possessive of it.
Yeah. Do they pop in and out?
Oh, yeah. When you've moved on, you can do whatever you want, and they do. They come by and pop in all the time. I'd be popping in and out all over the place. Just kidding.
So it's that they come from a time where they're afraid of where they're going to end up, and they have something that they want to say or do. Do you find that, well, I better get to some of these questions and then I'll go back to mine, but I have so many.
I know.
Brian, Michelle, regarding your comment about not being around forever, what happens to the spirits of paranormal researchers? Do they become helpers, ombudspersons between spirits and us?
I love that question, and kudos, Brian. I've never been asked this. Out of 20 years of doing media
Brian
and television,
takes
I've never been.
Great pride in his questions. Okay.
And I thank you for that. I believe because we are researchers, we are more aware of a lot of things, how things work. I think if you come from an intuitive family, it works the same. For me, I think I would definitely come back and keep helping people because you know how things work. But again, I think it's a matter of choice. I mean, I consider myself semi-retired. Do I want to, spend an afterlife doing the same thing? I don't know. If it's spiritual warfare, let's say, or if it gets to that point, because the world is in a place where people are just so sad or depressed or angry, and that type of energy just attracts things that feed off of it. I know I would probably, if I had that ability to come back and still help, I probably would. I know now there's this theory that when we sleep, we go to sleep at night. We don't just sit in the parked car in the garage. That our essence just goes. And there's a belief that we do go help other people and move them on when they pass as guides. And if that's true, it would explain why I'm exhausted a lot of the times. So yeah, I believe that that we do become liaisons and guides of some sort.
Thank you, Brian. We know this guy. Dave wants to know, question for Michelle. When clearing an entity for spirit, do we know or where the spirit goes? Is it banished somewhere or does it just disappear forever? Or maybe both?
Also a good question. Thank you. I always say to people, I'll let you know when I get there. I can tell you that a lot of it has to do with our belief system. I can tell you that in clearing people and being able to see different methods, let's say portals, for example, if you're clearing an area of a cemetery and you have a family of spirits and you have one that may be, let's just say you got the black sheep who's not going the same way as everybody else. We notice that he does tend to get like they hold him back a little bit. So maybe is it a form of atonement? Is it, I don't believe that when a beautiful bright light opens, I believe we all have the option to go through it. But the fact that we've seen on a couple of occasions, one goes through separately, maybe he's just going to be taken aside because it's still the big, beautiful bright light that you see when it opens. And we notice that with indigenous spirits, many of them, we will see tribal leaders waiting for them. So again, I'm wondering if we're dealing with just a faith, a belief system.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Like, depending on your faith, would your experience be different?
Right.
But there's always the bright door from your experience.
Right.
Regardless of what's on the other side, it's we all have that door to go through.
Yes. I you know what? I feel that a lot of it just comes from here. If you have something malevolent there that we're popping out that doesn't belong in these places, it's why I recommend if you have the ability to work with beings that are already on the other side, then they just automatically know where to send them. And not, some human spirits are very powerful, but sometimes you have to deal with dimensional beings that are just maybe who never were a part of this planet. Like some people work with angels, so there are spirit guides that were never human, never part of this time or space. I mean, we can come in from what I understand from many different places. We could come back, we incarnate as an animal, as an extraterrestrial from an entirely other world. Some are way more advanced than us.
Well, first of all, Mr. Benison, I would like to know why you are asking about the malevolent spirits.
Something you're not saying.
But there's some things that just can't be known until that time arrives. When it comes to animals, actually, when last week, one of the last questions Brian asked, because we got started on this subject with other people, is, do you ever see animal ghosts? Like pets, like cats?
Yes. The manor used to have all kinds of cats, and it would rub up against people's legs, and people would definitely see them. I have seen spirit animals as well, dogs, horses, things like that. My little dog, we don't see her, but we hear her. Like we used to call her little discount bark because she was like a little 2.5-pound chihuahua, and she would go, ha, ha, just like that all the time. And it's like, ha. So we hear this sometimes very, very clearly. And I think, oh, it just has to be residual, but then when we moved here, we still hear it.
Well, when we talk about people who have unfinished business, a pet's business is to be there for us, right? Yeah. So they would probably be more likely to stick around than anybody. Mm-hmm. I know when we lost our dogs, I swear I would see them sitting in the chairs, like when I came around the corner, or you would just feel, or whatever, stronger with, see, now I'm getting a cold chill, but stronger with the animals than anything else.
I think because they're so faithful to us as pets, and I believe that they can see more. They definitely see more than we do. I know of researchers who used to bring dogs or cats on investigations because they do see more. I used to tell people who would message me, I think there's something going on in the house. So how is your pet reacting? But on the downside of that, when something malevolent comes in and attaches to somebody, we find pets are very, very much susceptible to being victims because they can't speak for themselves. And it's a good place for something to attach and hunker down. Like we've seen it. I've had people say something's not right with my animal. There's something wrong. And we go in and you see, like my sister's cat did it. Its eyes went completely black. And it went right after her. It kept trying to attack her, sent her in to have some tests done at the vet. And like, we don't see any neurological disorders with her, like a good chunk of change was spent trying to figure it out. And it was only sometimes. And I remember walking in the house one day, and my sister was standing there. My parents were standing there. This was like in adult years. My parents were visiting. It was like, around Christmas season. And she'd just come back. Went on a ghost tour and just kind of like took too much interest in a certain area that was known to have malevolent energy, and came home, and the cat just went psychotic. And I walked through the door and caught it midair. It was lunging, claws out, eyes black, just angry looking for my sister's, like for her face. And I caught it midair, and I just got, because I have very good reflexes. So caught her midair, put her down onto the sofa, and just, and I knew, I could feel it. I could sense it. I'm like, no, not this night. And that was the end of that. And she remained like that until we took her to the vet and said, my sister said I had to relinquish her. She was attacking her on a regular basis. And as soon as, the vet got hold of her, she completely calmed down. Her eyes went back to green, and it was just strange. So it happens.
So they're
open.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like children, like we talk about children being closer and more open.
They are. Yes.
Okay. I would like to think this applies to you as well, Brian. No. None of us are perfect, and we all carry around emotional baggage. When we pass on, do we carry around that baggage forever, or can it get healed?
Well, I can give you an example, and I've seen this happen many times. I don't think we can move on with our baggage until we heal it. So I think this is why so many remain behind, if it's something that's gnawing at them. A really good example was Wayne's mother. She was just not a very nice lady. And when she got sick and he got called in, she was on her deathbed. I mean, he watched her take her last breath, and he was just like going, okay. All of a sudden she goes, comes back. He's like, he almost has a stroke. It's just like, oh my God. You have to ask him to tell you the story one time. He'll tell it better than me. Now, she basically came back an entirely different person. So what did she see? Now, she lived for another 6 months, I believe, 7 months. And the whole time she was leaving baggage. But at first, she kept making comments like, because she had dementia, so she was losing her faculties. And she'd say, this darn train, she goes, I'm supposed to get on it, and they keep telling me I can't take my bags. And I'm like, right, hello. And Wayne's just going, can't take the bags. I get it. So she's got to dump the baggage. She's got to work through her things. She wronged a lot of people, her children, especially grandchildren. So she slowly started making peace with all of them. And the bags became less and less. And this is how she visualized it. And she had traumatic things from childhood. She started making peace with that. And then people started coming to visit her. All of a sudden, she's highly intuitive, having conversations with people, but very calmly. She would be having a conversation with Wayne and say, 1 minute, dear. And she looks at her and goes, no, darling, that's not my cat. My cat has a tail, but it's a very pretty cat. Thank you. Carry on. Wayne's just like, it's like looking under things. Who's here? It very much was like that. She died peacefully in her sleep 6 to 7 months later.
So she had a chance, and she
got on the train. There was no baggage. So I think the key is, because I say we're all students in life, but especially in this field, we were continuously learning. Things change, people change, we evolve. And I think that we have to just get rid of our baggage. I watched my mom. My mother, got my mother just had a heart attack. That was it. But it was just like, we found out, however, that she had cancer that she never told anybody about, which is not what got her in the end. It was the heart. But she started making this transition. And she was just making amends with her sister, who nobody liked. This woman did nothing but cause angst in the family. There was no close relationship. I think there's only one person, one sibling that would speak to her. Now there's none. So she made peace, and she'd say, you should talk to your aunt. I went, no, I'm going to hell. Not doing it. Nope. But she transitioned right down to her final hours, and we just saw her healing. So I think, Brian, that's the best way I can answer it. I really think that you have to live every day being the best person that you can, because if you die suddenly with all this baggage, will it be enough to hold you down, or is that where atonement comes in, perhaps?
So then sometimes getting a prognosis, what did I just say? Never mind, skip it. That your time is coming up could be considered a good thing because you're given that notice and you have time to take care of things that you want to take care of.
I think it's fantastic. This is where I commend mediums, who aren't afraid to give messages like that. I personally have never, I do readings once in a blue moon, and that's only if I have a spirit nagging at me enough because I'm sitting across from somebody who has to have a message. For the most part, I don't want that responsibility, which might be selfish, but that was a live and learn thing with, a friend when I was 18, when she said to me, is my boyfriend cheating on me? And I went, yes, you're my best friend. I'm going to tell you anything. And she tried to take her own life. So I realized.
But that wasn't your.
No.
But if you had proof without the mediumship, okay, we're going to get into ethics.
Yeah.
If you had proof without the mediumship, you would have told her anyways, Michelle.
Yes, I would have.
So, and it was the right thing to do.
But I had no tact because this was my best friend. I'm like, I've got you. I'm your wingman. Yes.
Well, yeah, you shouldn't have done it in Michelle style.
Right? Come in, slam dunk. Yeah. But I learned, no, you have to have tact. But I also learned that it's a big responsibility, and that there are people out there that will hang on every word a medium has to say. So for me, I've had mediums, sometimes they'll say, do you want to know everything? Or they'll say, I don't say those things. And I'll say, well, I want to know, because I am one of those people that would take complete advantage of that time I had left and finding my peace and making peace with people in my life that are important. And I've already started that process. Just, even with, when your kids say to you, when I was 5, this happened. And I'm just like, well, I'm very sorry. I didn't notice that when you were 5 that this happened. But, I think it's really important, because Wayne's mother, it was all about her adult children who had horrific lives with her, because the type of person she was, from the stuff she harbored from the time that she was a child. So I've got all of my children to cover all the bases and said, if I did anything, I apologize. And I spend every day of my life always trying to make up for something that I may or may not have done. Like, kids remember things. You're thinking, when did that happen? We as parents are busy. We don't remember things happening. But to them, it's a really big
different
thing.
Perspective of in the moment importance. Now, this is very important, Michelle, and your answer is going to affect my life. Brian wants to know, does this mean I should start being nice to Vicky?
I think you should start paving the way for that, Brian. Yes, absolutely. But in Vicky's defense, I don't know how anybody could not be nice to Vicky.
See?
That's all I know, right?
And it's just a game we play. But yeah, I think we need bumper stickers made up with that.
I know. Be nice to Vicky. No.
Right. Vicky has her own stuff too. Right. So you feel like when that baggage is not there, those people are held back until they have a chance to.
I believe it's a very strong possibility. There's also the theory that they will go for, again, I think it's the belief system that, you go back for atonement. What do you do if you don't have a belief system? Again, I'll go back to Wayne, because he had a friend who was complete atheist, and he died in a motorcycle accident, and he wandered for like 5 years. And then all of a sudden Wayne started having visions of him. Like, he's just going, I don't know why, but he keeps coming to my mind. Can you check on him? We're like, okay. And sure enough, the guy was just stuck right on the highway he died on. And we're just like, okay, we're going to move you over. I can go. Yeah. I sure can. I believe it's just a dimensional thing, personally. It's not so
Yeah, you
much
just
up and
walk
down.
into
It's just
another
dimensional. Yeah. A portal opens up for you.
and into
Go home.
another part
Go.
of existence.
Yeah. Go home. Much better over there. you know.
Are you sure, Michelle? You're telling us all
I'm hoping, Vicky. I am hoping.
then you get there and go, oh,
Well,
there's
crap.
people waiting. Then
Yeah,
you have
I
amends to
think I
make.
underestimated this one. Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So,
But
so they're out there. Now you take on some baddies. Um, what's one of the scariest experiences? I mean, and were you actually scared? But what's one of the scariest experiences you've had, if you can tell us?
um I think everything is unnerving, per se, but I grew up having my own attachment, so I learned pretty early on, that this was a thing, and it was long before. I'm going to age myself a bit, but that was long before internet and paranormal TV shows. So I had to learn how to cleanse myself, So I just went to the local library, got a book on witchcraft and cleansing, just cleansing spaces. I really didn't know what else to do. And I realized very early on that it became about mindset. It wasn't about so much the actions that I was doing and the words that I was using, but it was about the power behind the words and the strong intention behind the actions. It was all about me taking control.
And having confidence.
That's right. And that's something I've always taught people. I don't go in and say, okay, hey, I didn't go in. It was never like waving a magic wand, but I ended up finding out later on in life that some of my experience were extraterrestrial related as well. But, yeah, I mean, so bad cases or bad situations. I think the worst for me was just when I came to the realization that my daughter got affected by one of the locations I had worked on. You think you do everything right, you take the proper um, protocol in grounding your energy, protecting yourself the most that you can. Again, making sure the mindset is right, and things would come around me all the time before I even went to a location. They always know when you're going to be there. And we had a conversation on our show about this last night that, because a lot of exorcists will say, no, I was chosen to be the one. It chose me to finish this or to do the battle. And one way or another, they come, they let you know. They would start knocking, and I've been growled at in my own house, things like that. But this specific case, my daughter ended up losing her vision. She just woke up one morning within about 3 days after I'd been to this location. Was, I can't see. I'm going, what? You have perfect eyes. What do you mean? What's wrong with you? Because I can't see. So, she went to every test imaginable, CAT scans, MRIs. We took her to eye specialists who took pictures of the inside of her eyes, and I mean, everything. So, psychiatrists, psychologists. We tackled everything under the sun that had to do with anything brain related, eye related, psyche related. And then my family physician said to me, he goes, what have you worked on last? It takes my family doctor to say, because we were friends.
A man
too,
of
right?
science.
Man of science says, what have you worked on last? And I went, oh my gosh. And I knew I was supposed to go back. So it's like, okay, fair enough, but we talked about going back in the spring because this was January, but they were way out in like wilderness, it's like, God. And then the family just didn't want any more help. So it just turned out that we weren't going to go back. Within the month I had gotten this information and I just said, okay, I'm not going back. But I already knew I wasn't going back.
Because the
family didn't want assistance. So I used that to my advantage. By later that afternoon, after I put that out there, she goes, I can see. But one eye has never been right. But she says, I can see. So I don't know, coincidence. I don't really believe in coincidences. I believe in a lot of synchronicities. I believe in things of that nature. But what matters is you could see, and it was a very humbling experience. I learned very early on that there's a lot of power that comes from these individuals. So you have to be humble all the time.
And yeah, no, and not forget to take those extra like not get you too used to it. Have
Mhm.
you ever advised people to just get out of Dodge, like leave the house? There's no
Yeah, we've had to do that. I don't ever think a family should leave. It's always if they ask me straight up, should I leave? Especially early days because um it could take you a year to get something out if you're, doing it on site. Obviously, techniques are different now, but I've had to say to people, you might want to leave, but they typically can follow. So
so that's not always
it's
the
not always
safest
an
plan.
option. I truly have seen people because at one time, I used to have an 18 to 24-month waiting list if you wanted me there in person. And I was like, they do take long. I would always make sure the prior was finished before moving on. I didn't want any like bleed through as I called it, and then I would need time in between there to meditate, to cleanse, and just to try to be as normal as possible in that time frame and regroup. Then I would go on and take another. I've worked with a lot of deliverance ministers. I've worked with a lot of non-Catholic exorcists who go in there and take chances, and you take a chance every time you go in. So sometimes it comes down to, you might want to try to leave, but you can be followed. And sometimes you have haunted people. It's all them. They're the ones with the attachment. Doesn't matter where they go. It's not the house.
Why would they get an attachment? Because the person finds something like, well, because we're talking about different things. We're talking about spirits. It could be people that they knew. It could be
Hmm.
ancestors, and then we're
Hmm.
talking about multi-dimensional
Hmm.
creatures, kind of thing. That's what
Right.
I'll just call them,
Sure.
to sort of round it all
Yeah,
out.
absolutely.
So what would attract that to a person?
Many things. It's believed that negative energy is food for certain types of beings. They thrive on it. I mean, you get a lot of that. Let me get my tin hat for a minute. You get a lot of, the conspiracy people who, and I say that very gently because it was a term invented by CIA. They want to just don't to try to discourage people from, their credibility. But there's a belief that a lot of the world's elite are very much like this. That's why there's so much negativity, war, money problems, keeping everybody busy and sad and angry and division. And, that's a theory, of course. But the point I'm trying to make is it's a type of energy. Sadly, this type of negative energy attracts certain beings. It's food for them, more so than laughter, which is right.
Um,
So go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. Oh, no, 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 no. I was gonna say that I'm safe. No,
Yes, you're safe because you're bubbly. I know.
not always. Ask David.
But
Ask Brian.
let's say you have anxiety or depression, or you've been bullied, or you have addictions. You're grieving. Sadly, even something as simple. And grieving is not simple. Believe me. I'm living it. My mom been gone only 6 months, but um, grieving opens a door because it's a sadness, and it's just heart heavy, but it opens a door for things to come in and fool you into thinking you're dealing with a loved one, because people want signs so desperately. They're inviting that in. They're not thinking about where those signs could potentially come from.
So, in this time, I mean, there is a lot of time spent just thinking with the internet, with listening to a lot of different things and a lot of sadness out there. And that the possibility of taking action, like to get up and walk and go for a walk and whatever, could change
Yeah.
the world. just that one little thing passing on from one person to another. So we need to walk away from the negativity, I
Yes.
think. And
Yes.
that means walking away from it, turn it off.
It's a
Well, let's
lifestyle
face it, most
change.
of it's coming from a source, a certain source that is uniting the entire world. So just
Yes.
turning that off and walking away. I know that I feel like I was much more happier before Facebook. I mean, it's not that I hate Facebook or I blame Facebook, but I think they were happier times. Um,
Yes. I think you need to walk away from looking at all the terrible things that go on. Some people put their whole lives, in a comment. You're just like, oh my goodness. You realize how much sadness there is out there. I say ground your energy. There's techniques you can do. You can do earthing, which is like when I laugh at people, I say, no, go hug a tree. And they're like, what? No,
no,
trees are sentient
seriously.
beings. They communicate via the root system. They're willingly sharing their energy with you. And you have elementals that nurture these trees and forests and plants and animals, and they get really ugly if it's not taken care of. But I'll often say, live, love, laugh, open the windows, dance, laugh, watch a funny movie, whatever you can, raise the vibrations, raise the frequency. They can't, they starve with positive energy. You see, we're the ones that feed them because they keep doing this thing of divide and conquer. They make you bicker within the household and create situations and infighting. And this is just, it's a vicious circle.
Well, because we are so driven by society to show our virtue. If something bad is happening on the other side of the earth that you can't do anything about, no matter what you do, you can't do anything about it, then you
Mhm.
must be miserable. If something's happening to me, I want those people to go happy while you have a chance. I mean, we only
Right.
have so many
Right.
opportunities to.
Right.
So it's coming out from under that. I think that cloak.
Mindset, life change, be positive. There's just so much negative, and part of that all comes from social media, television. We just seem to be living in a really, unstable, dark times. But it doesn't have to be that way for you. You are in
No,
charge
no.
of your environment. We cannot control what goes on around us in the world. We cannot, but we can control how we perceive it and how we handle it. That's who we are in
And
control of,
our little
ourselves.
circle, our
That's
little
right.
spot,
That's right.
we can. And I think the most important take is not to let Brian get to you. Okay, that is true. Speaking of Brian, he's back again. If these spirits entities can affect our material world, can we generate energies that would affect or harm them in turn? For example, high power radio waves and such like. Okay, I feel like the science fiction writer is
No, no, I love it. I love it. I
yeah.
do think that certain frequencies, I mean, it works on people as well. Radio waves, microwaves, different G towers. We'll leave it right there. I think it affects us all. Everything is made up of energy. Therefore, energy is how you fight back, right? So if you're creating positive frequencies and vibrations, I think they just have a harder time attaching. If you're grounding yourself, they have a harder time attaching. Is it foolproof? No, nothing. Nothing is foolproof. But again, it comes down to reaction. I've seen people who have waited because, like I said, I just have a really lengthy waiting list. So I would say, I would deal with them, let's say, over the phone or over email and say, do this, and this. I mean, you're taking in 18 months of working with somebody, changing the mindset and putting them in control. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. When do you want me in? Oh, we're good now. They took care of it themselves. And that's the idea. The majority of people that I've helped through the years, not that they don't have amp ups. When I mean amp ups is, you
There
close
isn't a
that
cause.
door, people, there's always something waiting to come in because it's almost like you have a bullseye on your back after a while. You have to keep at it and keep it that lifestyle change and mindset change. But the majority of people, when they're done and they've cycled through and they've changed whatever it is they had to change, I never hear from them again. Once in a blue moon, I might hear from the occasional person saying, just want you to know I'm still okay.
Well, it's to
Perfect.
be, be passionate about something and that fills the void. Like
Right.
when I'm doing this show or writing or whatever, I'm not even thinking about anything else, but in
Right.
that moment. And
Right.
that makes, I think, a lot of difference. Okay.
Yes.
So hello, Dolly.
Dolly,
And
Dolly.
Dolly
Right.
says, live in joy. Oh, Dolly. Hi, Dolly.
I was trying to break out in song. I know.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
I missed that opportunity. I'll never get that back.
No.
Live in joy. Joy is not dependent of others. We do choose our thoughts. And yes, I
Yeah.
agree.
Yes. I agree
I I I
completely.
I, I
I
think
can.
so. Okay,
Yeah.
so I want to there's just something. So okay, so you've been through. See, this is the thing. So do you think the movies that we watch um are very like over the top? Um, so okay, like say the Amityville Horror or Conjuring or whatever. Do you feel that they're a little bit over the top, or about the you've got to get out of the house and you've got to run away or whatever? From what you're saying, there are other ways to take care of it than that. Or do you think in those cases it was really like that?
Right. Well, let's go. Let's use Amityville. I think it's a great example. If you talk to the people who lived in the house, you know, the Lutzes, for example, because I've communicated with Christopher Lutz quite a bit. I've never spoken with Daniel. Those are the boys, but they both very, very horrific experiences. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know about what happened in that house and what George was like. And that's something that I think Christopher is writing a book on. So I don't want to get into a lot of that, but he was going to come on the show and talk about that and his experiences. He's been silent for a little while, so maybe he's writing, hopefully. I've also bared in mind that there were a lot of other people involved after the fact, researchers. I know Amelia and I have had Laura DiDio on. She was one of the newspaper or TV station reporters who partook in the seance, and they saw things that were going on. And so they went in with from a very skeptical point of view. And Ed and Lorraine Warren were there, and oh my God, I think Hans Holzer had his hand in it. I mean, there was a lot of different people who were there investigating. So I think it comes down to, was it fake? The movie embellishes everything because
They want to be entertaining, and yes, I agree,
yes,
JR. I enjoy them, so we're not
me too.
knocking the movies for that. Okay,
No, no, no,
we're just this
me
is a
too, me
Fika
too.
thing.
I
We're trying to
do.
find the difference between fiction and fact. So it's the perfect.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I do shows, where I've sat in a chair for hours and they ask me questions and I give them 4 logical answers. There's only one they're interested in. Could it be a demon?
Well, because they want the clicks,
Okay.
right?
Yes, yes. I suppose it could be a demon. Can you say that? It could be a demon. And the whole world thinks I run around going, "Oh, there's a just screaming demon all the time." No, what about the 4 logical answers I just gave you?
Demons get clicks, Michelle.
I
Logical
know.
answers
They
don't
do.
get clicks,
No,
and
they
people
don't.
want to get clicks.
No,
So
they don't.
I'm not in it for the clicks. I'm in it
Yes.
for the things.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
I enjoy those movies.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so you're saying there can be cases where it's just a whole combination of messes, of a
Well,
particularly strong entity, perhaps with some other things going on that
there was a
just
lot
maybe.
of l logical things that were happening that surrounded George as well, which I'm sure will come out when Christopher's ready to tell that story. But when push comes to shove, the people who experienced it swear by it. I think the biggest mystery falls with the DeFeos, the murders. We know that the um, family was grounded once they got moved on. Did that change everything? Well, they didn't get moved on right when the Lutzes moved in. Probably not till long after that. So there's a lot of theories that go around that. What I can tell you is that Laura went into the house with another owner. I mean, she'd been in a couple times, once by herself and that she said that her dog acted very erratically at the bottom of the stairs, but that was the only experience. She followed her dog's lead. They left. She basically called, I think, the new owner, which was an elderly lady, sweet elderly lady who owned the house afterwards, who were never reported having any problems until Laura contacted her. And all of a sudden, this big growly type male voice came out, directed at Laura. Laura's just like, and then she just went back to being this lovely old lady. And Laura's like, all right, then. So I don't know. Is there something in the house? Or are we to assume that it's just all made up?
So Dolly is saying that in the Hindu philosophy, they believe that a place lived in by evil should be purged by burning it to ash. I'll go with that.
I mean, I believe that as well. I also believe how do you burn energy? If evil has resided, you can burn it to the ground. It's happened. We've seen houses get completely removed, but the energy remains. It's an imprint in time and space.
And like they say, it's attached to the land.
It's an energy. You just can't necessarily.
So it's just waiting for a subdivision to go in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if anything can disrupt or disturb, destroy energy, it would have to be something made of energy. It would have to be perhaps something from the other side that has the ability to do that. Maybe an angel, maybe somebody with the technology. Can we little old humans do it? I don't know.
Do we have that power?
We're powerful enough to project energy and create unbelievable poltergeist activity.
Just be happy.
I know.
I mean, I used to. Unfortunately, went into dating, but the monsters aren't really bad; they're just misunderstood, right?
Yeah, exactly, misunderstood. All right.
So finally, for me, is it possible? Is it possible to live in a haunted house and not even know it? Like you're talking about that little old lady there. Like if you don't disrupt them, if they're just left to be, is it possible they could be around us at any time?
Yes, I believe that that definitely can be the case. I've met people who moved into homes after a family is vacated and have never had any issues. Sometimes I had somebody send me. Back when they used to have the old answering machines, right? Sent me a recording and they said, okay, well, we've been living in this house. I'm just sending this to you so you can document it in case we ever have a problem down the road. And it was just some crazy growling that came through. And he goes, we've been here like 6-7 years, never a problem. And we just got this. If you don't ever hear from me, we don't have a problem. I went, okay. Sent it to me. Never had a problem. It was just sometimes people activate things. Maybe they start changing the house around. Maybe they maybe have somebody, who starts going through menopause or puberty, or the energy somehow is changing.
It always comes back to that. Although you can understand how. Never mind. I'm going to just get myself in trouble. Okay. So we'll just Dolly. Okay, we need to keep up with the comments as they come because I'm not always sure. Yes, Dolly says we have the power to send that energy. I'm assuming that's what she says, and JR says a good observation, but I'm not sure which one. Okay, and another hello. So, do you want to? We're right on the hour mark. And you're the boss. Do you want to go on with the trip from Transylvania?
Absolutely. I'm the boss. Absolutely. If you want an extra long show, for sure. There's nobody on after you, girl.
That's the thing. There's nobody on after. There's so much power in that. There's nobody on after me. So
you're in a good place.
For those listening and don't know, part of Michelle's bio is that doing this has given her an opportunity to travel to many of the places that she might not have been able to travel to before. And one of her favorite places, amazingly enough, I said that sarcastically, is Romania, Transylvania, or Transylvania, Romania. So Did you want to tell us? Well, okay, I'm curious because you said when you were near the haunted forest. I'm not going to even try to pronounce the name. When you haunted forest,
Oh
you
my
said
God.
you heard whispers, or you have heard whispers while you were in the villa. You heard ghost whispers
Oh no,
somewhere.
there's just different parts of Romania that we've had experiences in. I mean, how do you not? Like leading up to this, I've had a lot of readings were done when I was exploring a lot of past life stuff, and I was being led to different places. But I spent about 3 weeks there, and a lot of different things started unfolding, shall we say. So we decided we visited with myself and my friends and colleagues on CMH, Melissa and Adriana, and then we had a skeptical dude with us. It was just like friend of a friend sort of thing, right? So we're like, okay, we're just gonna go to all the places that we want to see. When you go to Romania, Transylvania, you go to the castles. You go to, for me, it's where the history was. And of course, it was the time of Tepesh and Hoyabatsu, which was the forest, is one of those places that is considered to be, and I didn't want to know a lot about it at first. I just wanted to go and experience it. But we came to find out that it's under no-fly zone. It's considered to be Romania's Bermuda Triangle. It was named after a shepherd that went missing a lot of years ago with a herd of like 100 sheep, maybe 500 sheep. It was something astronomical. That just disappeared, never seen again. And then there was a tale of a little girl who was 5 years old who went missing and then resurfaced 5 years later wearing the same clothes, but she was just like a ragged little doll and she just wasn't right mentally anymore. I mean, I can imagine going through a portal and coming back, you're going to be, right. But anyway, it was a very unusual place. And we decided we would go check it out because there was a show I used to enjoy watching, which I won't say on the air, but they had a lot of bad experiences there. And the people that filmed on behalf of this TV show was the University of Cluj. Hoiabaciu is in Cluj. And they went in and they brought the team in and they did the filming. And a year after these horrific experiences, they went back and did it again. Still had horrific experiences. We happened to be 3 days behind a really famous TV paranormal show whose host was having like a meltdown in the forest. Well, we went in, I'm like, okay, whatever, is over dramatic. We went in the afternoon. I want to have an idea what this place was like and get a feel for it. And a lot of people don't realize they go looking for one circle specifically, but there are two. So if you don't get the right one, you're defeating the purpose. So we did our homework, got the right one, and then I had a little nap just so I could, have a little sleep, take it all in. And we were there the night of a supermoon. And people said, oh, you want to go in on a supermoon. I understand. You want to feel all this extra power. I'm like, no, I just want to get my ass out at 2 a.m. It's a 4-kilometer hike. I want to see where I'm going.
And you can see.
See the logic, right? The logic of it all. So we went in and it was all these crooked trees. Like I have pictures I could show you, but there are all these crooked trees. No birds, no animals in this area of the forest at all. Bugs, it was just bizarre. Got to the circle, made our way in, and realized how silent this was. We had some lunch. We brought lunch with us, and I'm sitting there going, it's eerily silent, except for a droning sound in the background, like a humming. Mm-hmm. I felt like doing a mantra. It was just so perfect beat. Yeah.
Sound like energy, like
it did. It actually,
motor,
when I think about it now, it sounds like a portal.
Yeah,
is what it sounded like to me. Based on other locations I've been to that have had smaller ones, smaller scale. But I thought, okay, this is interesting. At the time, it didn't really click in. So we waited until it got dark, and then the supermoon lit up, and it was a nice July evening, and the whole circle all of a sudden went bright, 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 bright. And there's 6 ways in. Earlier that day, I saw this man on a cart. Remember, you're on the top of a mountain. A man in a cart with oxen, just pulling, going through the circle. Oh, wooden wheels, big solid wooden wheels. And I'm looking at him going, I just like to run up to him and just poke him. Let's see if he's real. And it could have been, and he looked at me very oddly. I looked at him very oddly. It's like, okay, whatever. So anyway, he came, he went. I ran to the path where he went through, and I didn't see anything after that. It's just like, okay, whatever. So, Adriana, one of my researchers, and again friend, says, I'm going to go to each circle. I'm going to do voice recordings, or each entrance. I went, okay, but don't go near that one right away. Just don't. Like, it feels like there's just a big energy patch there. And she said, okay. So once she got to that, Melissa and I were standing there looking at her and the skeptical person. We call him the skeptic because he plays a really big part in this. And I always welcome it for a different point of view. Sorry, it's very dry. So anyway, she goes, I'm getting a lot of heaviness in my chest. And I'm going, then come away from there. And all of a sudden we hear this creaking, cracking sound. And Melissa and I are looking, and behind her, a tree branch, probably about this thick, not little, but about a substantial tree branch, starts going like this behind her, and we're like, are we seeing this? And it snapped up. And then, of course, she jumps, and she's like, oh my God. I was just like, yeah, I told you don't go near that one, but okay, it happened. So we didn't 4-kilometer hike. We didn't have a whole lot of equipment with us. We didn't go, I had to fly on a plane to Europe. I wasn't bringing all this crazy stuff with me. We were just going up there to see if we captured anything. If we could, great. So I brought a little, what they call hack shacks. There's just like little ghost boxes. And I think back then it was like iPhone 4s was the popular one. That's the one, like Melissa had that. And I think I had a 5 actually at the time. And she, just tried taking pictures, doing voice recordings, turn on this little box, and bearing in mind that there's, one radio station within the town. So if you're lucky, and this thing just starts going, and everything is in Romanian, but Adriana's Romanian. So I said, can you just speak English? Because there's not supposed to be a language barrier. We knew there was like some civilization up to like 16,000 years ago. So who knows? And then they went da, which means yes, like perfect. So they started conversing with us. And all of a sudden, this big growl comes through. And the spirit says, go now, run. And I'm like, well, I don't really run.
That's the thing, right?
I know. No, but I will be respectful, and because the spirits are very concerned for our safety, and we're like, okay. But before that, we were getting ballroom music, really, really old type of music, and a spirit came through and said, Vlad the Torturer. We're just like, oh, because we knew he'd come through the area, obviously on his way to Hundora, right, which is where he was held captive for like 10 years. So it's like, okay, it's definitely possible. And but then when it says go now, run, then the best part of the whole night for me was a skeptical guy. Honestly, he turns around and he goes, is that supposed to happen? I don't really think that's supposed to happen. And I'm like, what? And it looked like the tree line, the top of the trees were going down. Like there wasn't a breeze to be had. It was so hot that night. You're in the middle of July. It's freaking hot. And the tree line looked like something was coming over it. Was it the illusion of the tree line? Yeah, but I mean, all 4 of us are kind of going. And when the skeptical guy goes, I don't think that's supposed to happen, you're kind of paying attention because it's not your mind running away from you. He's like onto it. And then it was, go now, run. So I said, I will take my exit gracefully.
I will walk away.
Of course, I did. And I wandered off, and we all walked out. You have to do it safely. It can't be ridiculous. You're not running anywhere in the
At
middle
night
of
in
a
a forest,
forest in the
you're
night. You
gonna
want to
trip over a root and knock
well, you
your
want to
eye
find your
out.
way out as well, right? There's 6 ways in and out. You need to get your bearings, and it's very easy to lose them. There was something at our heels, literally the whole way. We can hear them crunching, in the brush beside us, and got to the hotel, and the whole night. This is a state of the art hotel. You couldn't even get power in your room unless you put a card in the wall and it powered everything up. It was just really green type of environment, and all night long, things pacing, things walking in our room, in the room upstairs. We're just like, what the heck? And the girls had experiences um, for months after that.
So there was, and you think it all comes from the port. You think it's portholes to various dimensions
I believe it's
within.
something the locals catch photographs of UFOs over top of there all the time, lights in the trees, like, big orbs like going in within the trees. The trees aren't right, obviously. There's just a lot more to it. And I guess it is said to be the
It's a
most haunted
mystery.
forest in the world. Yeah.
Well, when you talk about I just have to. When you talk about portholes, my son and I were talking the other day. We were saying, perhaps it's just two sides of a porthole, just unsuspectingly, showing up in each other's life. Like if you were taking a shower and suddenly you saw through a porthole another person, you would yell, "Get out!"
Darn straight. Like throw something out of the portal, buzz off,
And
but
the
it
next thing you know,
happens.
you're a demon, right? So you were
I
just
know.
trying to take a shower, but in that world.
It's like a time shift too, though. People, their stories. I mean, I've heard of 2 in modern times from people I know who this has happened to somebody they know or to them, where they walk outside and they go around the house, they're playing, and they come back and they're at their house. The people that they were just there with weren't there. They could hear them. They can't see them. Then there's a missing time. So, they go back around the other way because they realize something's wrong. And the one guy goes, I just did a counterclockwise thing to see what would happen. And he came back because he could hear them talking. And they're like, where were you? You've been gone for 2 or 3 hours. He's like, I've been gone for 2 minutes.
So like a Rip Van Winkle thing.
I think so.
They're gone and
Mm.
come on. Okay. From Dave, isn't there a controversy over which castle is truly Dracula's, or should I say Vlad the Impaler's? I know there's Bran Castle, that is usually the one that but there's another castle that's in the mountains that I believe to be his true castle. That is believed to be his true castle.
Yes. Well, there's several castles. Bran Castle is the most famous castle. It's where all of the films have been shot at. There's no proof that Vlad actually went to that castle ever. It was a border castle, and they don't believe. Some say, oh, he spent 2 or 3 nights there. And then there's others who say, no, he never stayed there at all. There was a palace in Terre Viste, which was said to be the family palace. And you can visit it today. It's a lot of it's in ruins, but there's a lot of it that's been rebuilt. Like they're fixing it. And then you have Poyanari, which is what I think maybe you're thinking about, which was a fortress on the top where his wife allegedly, well, not allegedly, she threw herself into the river from there
That was so
when
sad.
the Turks were approaching. Yes, and then there's Hundora, where he spent 10 years imprisoned. So
As a child, which could really mess
no,
with
that was
someone's.
adult life.
Oh, what's that? Didn't he get taken away as a kid or younger?
Yes, he was taken away by the Turks. When the Turks invaded, it was customary to keep peace. That
He
obviously
would send.
the 2 eldest, usually sons, who would be the ones to take over the throne, were sent to stay with the Sultan. They were sent in Turkey, and at that point they were trained in the Turkish belief system. The Turks were smart that way. They knew we train the future leaders and then we put them back in place, and we're not going to have trouble with them because
Their alliances.
they're one of ours. So Vlad and his brother Radu were sent. I think Radu might have been 3, Vlad was 5. and they were abused. I mean, they were abused on different
Yeah,
levels,
no, it
you
was just,
know, but they were taught. This is where impaling was taught. They think, that Vlad was just this mad impaler. Probably was, without a doubt. But everybody impaled in that time, and the
it was the
Turks.
Middle Ages, and
Exactly.
it wasn't a nice time. Nobody
No,
was,
but the Turks were notorious for it, and they're the ones that passed that down. Radu remained as part of the Turkish army, and in the end, it's believed that he was responsible for the death of his brother, even though there's a lot of mystery that surrounds that. So, yeah.
So, and the actual story itself, I mean, Stoker could have just gone in there and made a composite of everything, that he did.
Is that right?
It's not the story, but yeah, no
Yeah.
supernatural, just like really bad times. There,
Yes.
history back in the day is not as nice as people think that it was.
It was not. No, not at all. But it's an exceptional place, and there's definitely parts of the country where time stands still. It's just so. It's to me perfect. People are like, well, why would you want to go to a place like that? Because it's an exceptional place, and you have to have an appreciation for it. People don't realize that in Bran, that there are vineyards and that there are ski slopes, and people go visiting year round that have nothing to do with Vlad Tepes at all, or the Dracula lore, even though that's what the tourism promotes. But I mean, haunted. I mean, the castle's exceptional, and then you have Pelesh Castle, which was the prince of Romania at the time who stayed there, and then they left back in the 80s when they were under dictatorship, and the castles were all given back. And he just said no. He just gave it to the country and said, keep it as a tourist attraction, cousin of Prince Charles, right? So, but Bran, I mean, this is where I had one of my experiences. I was staying in a villa not far from Bran Castle. And Melissa and I were bunkies throughout the trip, and she stayed in one bed and I stayed in another bed, and beautiful, just at the base of the Carpathians, just unbelievable. And then about 7 a.m. in my ear, I hear Michelle really loud. And I was just like, I was, about stroked out at 7 a.m. because I'm like, who gets up that early? But anyway, so I looked over at Melissa. She's out like a light, as she should have been. And I was just like, oh, hey, that's interesting. So who was trying to get my attention?
No, I was looking it up, doing a little background for this, and I was like, it's like, oh, we have pool, it's just like a family villa, and we have games, and there's hiking, and I'm like thinking, oh, I need to go here, and then I realized that it was in Romania. It was just to experience that. You can see that it's very much like a family oriented, just go for the holiday.
But it's cheap to go. Your most expensive part will be your flight.
So
it's very inexpensive to go.
And the stories and that I've got to get the invitation out, but I think I have a girl from Romania who talks about her grandmother's teachings and things coming up. I mean, everything in my life is just leading into that whole area. I don't know why, but it's happening. And it is to go back and to hear the stories and to see those things. I mean, this is what we've lost.
Mm-hmm.
I think
it's phenomenal. I mean, I've been traveling the world for many years. I mean, many years, a couple of decades easily. And I always say, wherever I end up in the world, I leave a part of myself behind, and I take a part of that place back with me. I've been to unbelievable places. I've been very, very fortunate. Because I love history and I love culture. I don't go because they're all haunted. I make a point of staying in very old places, preferably haunted, but
I'm
it's
not sure about the haunted thing.
Oh my gosh, it's just so much fun. It's so much fun. I really like it. You're sleeping and somebody's walking around you at night, and I'm just kind of like going, who is it? I just love that sort of stuff. I want to stay. When I was in the south of France, I stayed in a place that was like from I think it was like 1200 AD. was the where Templars, and it was in the courtyard of a castle. It was just amazing. I just woke up every morning, opened the shutters, and there's this castle. And this castle had been shut down for a really long time. And the town, which is a small town, only of about 800 to 1,000 people, all saved up their money, bought the castle, and then they started restoring it. When they opened it up, they found the largest collection of Renaissance art in the entire of France. In fact, when we were there, they had people from the Louvre that were in there documenting and doing preservation work before they could open it up, because some of it was on the walls.
And this is what we talk about when changing the energy.
Mhm.
These are passionate people who are following what they
Yes,
love, as you do. And that's how you go to another dimension, right? In this one.
I think so.
I mean, I love history, but I remember when I was younger and I went with a bunch of girls to a bed and breakfast, and I was in this room and we were sleeping, and the girl that was sleeping in the room with me was like, Vicky, Vicky, did you say my name? And I'm like, no, I didn't say your name. And she's like, oh, okay. And she
Uh-oh.
rolls over, and I'm like, no, 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 no. If I didn't say your name, who's
Yeah, we don't
saying
want to
your
talk
name?
to whoever it was. Yeah,
I'm
we don't
like,
care.
let's get this worked out. I want to know
Yeah,
who's here.
right.
But no, no. I just it is, I don't know. When we've taken trips, it's always been to see something. It's not
Yes,
like, because we can lay around at home, right?
yes,
When you go
exactly, exactly. I
someplace,
like that.
you want to see it, and then you have a different experience than anybody else who's been there visiting.
It's true. It's true. I like to meld, into the culture. I want to absorb the culture. I want to look at the architecture. I want to relish in the history. I spent a lot of time in museums. I remember being on a trip where my friends were on a beach somewhere, and they were doing an excavation not far from our hotel. I wandered off. Everybody's on the beach. I wandered off, and I was just watching it, like, kind of like, somebody felt sorry for me. And they go like this, and I went, my little face perked up. I was all happy. So they gave me a little chisel and a toothbrush. I was there for 8 stinking hours. My friends are coming by looking for me, going for dinner. I'm like, go away, go away. I
I'm
want to.
busy. I'm doing stuff.
I
It's
am never going to have this chance again. And this is all I want to do. And
it's
that's
you
what I
can.
spent
I
my
mean,
day doing.
even if we're in Philadelphia, we will walk down the streets forever just looking
Love
at the
Philadelphia.
architecture, because the
Yes.
buildings are so beautiful. And we would get
Yes.
up early in the morning and just walk through the town looking
That's
at
right.
them all,
That's
because
right.
there's so much to see. So you
Absorbing
don't
it.
get bored.
No,
No.
exactly. And that to me is what it's about. But hey, to each his own. You could probably find ghosts anywhere you go if that's what you're looking for. Go on a cruise, go on
I'm not looking for them. Um I'm
what?
happy. No, no,
What?
I'm not terrified or anything. I'm just, I mean, of those things, I just I don't know. I don't know. I would be obsessed with helping them get rid of their bags, and then it would take up too much time. What do you need to do? But no, actually, no, this has been a great talk, because it has been a talk about passions, and you're passionate. You're a very passionate person about what
Thank
you're
you.
interested in, and it makes a lot of difference to the world
Thank
and
you.
for the world.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you for sharing all of
That's a
these
pleasure.
things.
It's a
Um,
pleasure.
yeah, we have to do this again. Just chat, because we never get a chance to in real life.
I know. I know this works. This works. Yeah. Well, I mean, this is easy for me. It's like in the afternoon.
So we'll just do, a periodic. Michelle and Vicky do Fika, because they don't get a chance otherwise.
I know. And who knows where the conversation will go.
That's it. That's
I'm
it.
versed
You
in many
don't.
things, thankfully.
So we can just go all over the place. So
Yes.
thank you for stopping in and giving
Pleasure.
us an idea of what the factual world of ghosts is like, and of these stories that we read. I know that's up for opinion, but I'm just
That's
going to
my
say
world. I can attest that it's my world anyway.
in your world. Well, you
In
have
my world.
a lot of experience with it, so we'll go with that, and we will talk to you later. Okay, thanks, Michelle.
Excellent.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
So that was a great conversation. Perfect time of year talking to Michelle. We all behaved ourselves. Thank you, Dolly. And we all enjoyed ourselves and learned something new. So I'm just going to not be looking at the comments. I'm going to turn the comments off now. So if I miss anything, I'm sorry about that. You know how we end things here? Until we see you again, may your coffee stay hot and your stories be sweet. Thanks for listening, everyone.
You are listening to Fika with Vicky on United Public